Where? Yeah, that was from Charles. That's for going to the gym.
Hey, Mr. Tanner, just a heads up, your mic is live. All right, current board members, go ahead and turn your cameras on, please, if you're here, and we'll get started.
Gregory, it says that my video has been turned off.
All right, give me 1 second. All right, this is going to be the 4 of us for current board members this evening. John Elling is not going to make it. So let me say the opening verse and we'll begin. The true aim of education is to awaken real powers of perception and judgment in relation to life and living, for only such an awakening can lead to true freedom. And that is from Rudolf Steiner. All right, so this is the November 18th, 2020 regular board meeting of the Valley of the Sun Waldorf Education Association Board of Directors. That, of course, is the formal legal name of the entity doing business as Desert Marigold School. So for those joining us as members of the public, this is the board's meeting. You're, of course, welcome to observe, but unless we specifically invite you in, you won't be able to participate. So let's introduce ourselves. I'm Gregory Schneider. I'm the board president and a father of 2 children at the school. Nathaniel, would you like to go next, please?
Yeah, Nathaniel Allen. I'm a board member and a parent of 3 at the school.
Perfect. And April?
Board secretary and a parent.
Thanks. And Mr. Tanner?
John Tanner, board member.
Thank you all. So we've got a full agenda this evening. We have a number of financial and budgetary matters to get caught up on. We are going to have an update from our interim executive director, Teresa Marzov, on how things are going. We'll talk about anything related to COVID-19. We're going to hear about the advisory search panel for a permanent executive director and how that work is going. And then we have some procedural matters to take care of as a board, including some compliance issues that we need to address with the state charter board. We're going to conduct board member interviews from a few applicants. This is the second round. We'll be asking them any follow-up questions. And then we'll be voting on whether or not they should become members of the board. And then we are going to have votes on the election of board officers. All right, so let's dive in. Priscilla, do you want to walk us through the monthly financial update? You're still muted.
Do you want to share it?
Yeah. Do you just want
Put it on
to?
the screen?
Yeah.
5.
Give me 1 second to pull it up.
And I assume you forwarded the reports to all the board members, right?
I did, yeah.
Okay. Did you forward them to Teresa?
May not.
I don't remember. I can't remember if I put her in my email or not. I'm sorry, Teresa.
That's okay.
Did you get them or no?
No,
Okay, let me forward them to you.
thank you.
Sorry, I switched computers and I didn't have these downloaded. Give me 1 second. Oh, let's do this another way. Google is being extremely slow right now. Cool. that showing up for everybody?
Looks good.
All right, take it away, Priscilla.
Okay, so this is the profit and loss, and I'm pulling up another report too, sorry. Okay, so this is the profit and loss for July through October so far. The income for the year is $903,555. And what that comprises of is $6,000 in tuition for individuals, tax credit money of $1,800. The miscellaneous income is $38,000. Of that $38,000, $25,000 is consumable material fees, and $10,000 is a restricted donation to the school. And the state revenue is $830. And that is the equalization pay plus the Prop 301. And then your federal revenue is $25,000, and that is the E-rate and the IDEA money. Okay, expenses for the school, the regular education is $714,000. Special education is $85,000. The Prop 301 expense is $58,000. And in suspense right now is $3,400. And what that suspense is there's some fraud on the bank account, and that was reversed in November. And so I have to, because the crossing of the months, I have to show it on the statement because it affects the bank report. Other expenses, the extended care and preschool is $21,000. So currently we're looking at a loss of $30,000 for the time period July through October. You guys have all been given the spreadsheet showing like some notes. Does anybody have any questions on any of that? No? Okay, we can look at the balance sheet and review the balance sheet then. Number 6, if you have that handy.
Yep, give me 1 second. I just don't want to make sure I'm not sharing anything I shouldn't be. All right, it should be up there now.
Okay, so the balance sheet as of October 31st. In the operating account, we have $69,000. In the PayPal account, we have $2,500, and the savings account, $61,000, for a total of $134,000. Our accounts receivable is $233,000. The accounts receivable is $212,000 from the equalization payment and $13,000 for Prop 301. And in addition to that, $7,000 for the IDEA money that we booked that has not been received yet, but we went ahead and recognized the income in October. The due from federal is a year-end adjustment that we're still waiting for the money on. And prepaid expenses is $4,600. That's expenses that we spread out. Our total fixed assets is 2.1, so our total assets are 2.5. Moving down to the liabilities, currently outstanding in accounts payable is $28,000. In credit card debt, we owe $7,600. And other liabilities, payroll liabilities, and the copier leases is $46,000. Our other long-term loans is 1.4, and so our total liabilities and equities is 2.5 million. Okay. Do you have any questions?
On the accounts receivable, is that mostly the equalization payment?
Yes, you have a sheet for the accounts receivable in there. It's number 3 that details that dollar amount out. If you want to look at item 3.
Got it. Okay.
It's all state money. We are not putting any parent tuition or anything like that on the books this year. We changed our accounting procedures.
Right. Any other questions, board members? All right.
Okay.
Cool. Anything else you want to point out to us specifically, Priscilla, on other sheets or?
No, I put all my notes in the Excel spreadsheet. I try to make really good notes on the Excel spreadsheet where you guys get the detailed accounting. And I feel like I answer most of the questions that would come up. So if there's any questions outside of that, then by all means, I'll take a look at it. But I try to be very thorough.
We appreciate that. All right. So outside of the spreadsheets and these reports, the Paycheck Protection Program loan, which I think you said we've booked as revenue at this point, consistent with what our auditor said was acceptable to do. But we still have to apply for the actual forgiveness.
Yes.
For that, and so I talked to John Elling a little bit before tonight, and he mentioned that Aspire was taking the lead on submitting those forgiveness applications. Is that right?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
I'm hoping to have it done by the end of November. This is our week to do a lot of the, we have one more set of reports that are due to the charter board for the schools this week. And then after that, we're going to be looking at all the PPP loan forgiveness applications. So yes, I'm hoping that it's done by the end of the month, but if not, by the first or second week of December for sure.
Got it. All right. Board members, any other questions for Priscilla? All right. Well, quiet night then for you. Thanks, Priscilla. All right, I'll stop sharing. All right, so let's take a look at the enrollment update. Pull that up. All right, so I can actually go ahead and share this. All right, so these are the current enrollment numbers. So we're staying pretty steady at a total student count of pre-K through 12, 277. Our K through 12 count is still sitting at 268. So I think that there've been a few people who have enrolled in November, and there have also been some that have withdrawn. But it seems like overall we are, for November at least, we're up by 2. We had 1 withdrawal in November, and we had 3 enrollments so far. So good news, staying steady. Teresa, I know that we kind of have been in the past trying to, call our wait lists and that sort of thing as things open up. Is that still ongoing? Are we doing anything additional to try to boost enrollment right now?
Crystal Lee she's made the website a lot more active. If you've been on our website, you probably noticed that you get immediately met with an announcement or reminder that enrollment is for the year is open, or it's open enrollment. Aside from that, I think, at this point it's been, just enrollment as usual. And there has been some discussion on whether or not we can, how to incorporate tours, maybe doing a virtual tour of our campus while we're looking to minimize the, amount of visitors we have on campus. And then also we're reviewing with all the teachers our current cap numbers to ensure that, do we still need to keep current caps based on the initial assessment, how many virtual versus in-person students each teacher can thoroughly educate in our new environment in the hybrid version. And so we've asked them to review those so that we can discuss, is that, are we able to adjust those a bit with perhaps an addition of an assistant? So again, we're just looking to shift with the time and then also, the way in a safe way, I guess.
Got it. All right. Sharing. All right, which brings us to approval of RSF loan terms. So, board members, I circulated the term sheet that we signed and approved earlier this summer. We are now at a point where RSF has approved the loan, and to make sure there isn't any hiccup on the way to actually closing on this loan, I'd like to actually get formal authority from the board to enter into this refinancing. So just a quick summary of the terms. It's an 18-month extension of our current loan. It's at the RSF prime rate, which is currently 5% plus another 0.25%, so 5.25%. It's amortized over 20 years, and it has the net effect of reducing our monthly payment to $14,000 and change to about $8,500. So it gives us a nice amount of breathing room there. So unless there's any discussion ahead of time, I'll go ahead and move that I have authority to enter into the RSF refinance agreement based on the terms stated in the term sheet that we have already signed on August 27th, 2020.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Nathaniel. Any further discussion?
Can you repeat that date just so I get it correctly? You said on August what?
27th, 2020. All right. Any other discussion? All right. All those in favor? Right. Unanimous. Motion carries. All right. So the next item is we had another very generous benefactor of the school who helped us late at the end of last year when we were in a pinch. That lender has asked to be anonymous. We're going to honor that this evening, even though we have not, unfortunately, done that very well in the past. But that particular lender, in connection with this RSF refinance loan, also offered to extend the term from a couple of years to 5 years, significantly reducing our payment while keeping the interest rate the same. So that particular loan, I've already signed the amendment agreement since we had already approved that loan amount. This really just was a cash flow issue and saved us a significant amount per month in cash flow, and it was something that RSF required. So out of an abundance of caution and for the record, I would move that to ratify the signing of the loan agreement from our anonymous community lender that I signed on November 14th, 2020.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Nathaniel. Any other discussion?
I need that date again. Sorry.
No problem. November 14th, 2020.
I think you broke up at the beginning of the movement or motion. Sorry. I kind of have it mixed in with notes. Do you want to repeat it or do you want me to read what I have written?
I'll try and repeat it and you tell me if we're different somehow. So I moved to ratify the loan amendment from our anonymous lender that I signed and circulated to the board on November 14th, 2020.
I second that slight variation as well.
Thank you, Nathaniel.
It was almost exact. I didn't get the start of the motion. But I got it now. We're good. Thank you.
All right. Any other discussion? All right. All those in favor? All right. Unanimous and the motion carries. All right. Moving right along, our auditor conducted an audit at the end of October. We've already signed an agreement with that auditor that is for the total cost of the audit was $13,900. We paid $2,000 up front, and the auditor has submitted his final invoice for the remaining $11,900. So this is something we've already agreed to. It's something we need for regulatory compliance. I move for the approval of paying the Bachland CPA invoice for $11,900.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Nathaniel. Waiting for April to be caught up.
This is hard. Got it. I think I got it. My fingers are flying across the keyboard, trying to keep up. I got it. We're good.
Okay. All right. Any other discussion? All right. All those in favor? Unanimous again. Motion carries. All right. So we have a revolving line of credit with MidFirst. We're going to discuss this more in connection with updating our charter board records, but John Elling, who is the signer on that account, has tendered his resignation as a board member. So we need to update who is going to have signature authority on that account. So I think it should be me, and then likely whoever becomes treasurer, which we're going to decide later tonight. So actually, why don't we table this particular item until the very end of the meeting? We'll come back to it. All right, which brings us to any other matters related to cash flow, profit and loss, or the balance sheet. Anything else, guys, on financial matters? All right. All right, then let's move along. Teresa, thank you for putting together a update. I know you've been swamped, jumping in head first and everything going on, and are doing a great job, and we're thankful for that. But I think it might help if you just kind of orally talk us through updates at the school from your perspective and what we should know about.
Okay. Well, thank you again. The community has been really welcoming and supportive. I know I came in at a weird time. So I just, to those here today, thanks for that. So walking through that, an update on remote learning, there were, this is now my 4th week, but when I arrived, there was some frustration specifically related to specialty classes for remote learners and for the specialty teachers struggling with those connectivity issues. So a brief update on some of those issues. We're still working with Fruth on the connectivity issues related to the woodshed. Mr. Camacho has been really trying to make it valuable experience for both the online learners and in person. And we're very close, unfortunately, as they went to kind of finalize that repair. It was learned that we need some electrical work that would solidify that repair. So that's where we are now. And we're working on getting that final piece resolved for the woodshed connectivity issue to be completed. The eurythmy room also is having issues preventing virtual learners from participating, which has since been resolved. So eurythmy classes, except for today, of course, which we had a campus-wide outage. But aside from that, the eurythmy room is back up and running and connected. The outage today is reported to have been repaired once we return to campus and can restart the modem. The internet carrier indicated that there was an equipment failure, which was repaired, but still now the update I received today was, I think it was about 5:30 or 5:45 today, that they now need us to return and reboot the modem. So that was news. We didn't know, but we should, we're going in early tomorrow and hopefully we'll have that resolved so that virtual learners can return to virtual classes. So that was an unexpected delay that I believe or an unexpected outage that I learned of at about 11 a.m. this morning. I think it happened shortly, about 11 a.m. this morning. Or 11 a.m., I guess. So that hopefully will be up and running in the morning again once we return to campus. With the COVID updates, since my arrival, we have had 4 incidents. We've had 3 close contact incidents, which not all schools report, but a close contact would ultimately be when someone, a student, staff, or faculty member has been in close contact with someone outside of the school that it has since tested positive for COVID. So we do have protocol in place for that. We have guidelines in place. And we have had 3 of those incidents, which none have resulted in exposure to our students, staff, or faculty. And then this past weekend, we had our first confirmed case, which again resulted, we worked with the county on that as we're required to, and none resulted with that investigator. This assigned to each confirmed case resulted in no exposure. So really great job by our faculty and staff, students, keeping, safe social distance, keeping masks on, washing hands, and a great effort by the parents in the community supporting those efforts. So that's really appreciate. Let's see, there have been, as we've worked through the guidelines, there's been some, we realized some opportunity to kind of adjust those guidelines to be consistent with guidelines themselves that were created. There's some conflicting just timeframes on when individuals can return to campus, and then also with CDC guidance. So I don't know if that's something we should talk through now, or just kind of mention that and move on. What do you?
Yeah, let's go ahead and address it, and then we can. I think then we can have a broader discussion about any other COVID-related issues.
Okay.
So yeah, talk us through what the changes you're thinking to be made are.
Okay, so they're fairly minor, but nonetheless, it's helpful in that moment to provide clarity to families, staff, and faculty. These get a little complex in the moment, depending on what's going on. So in our current response guidelines for positive COVID-19 test isolation guidelines, the first isolation guideline currently says that a person can return, having had a positive test, they can return 24 hours of being within 24 hours of being fever-free, without the use of any medication, fever suppressing medication. This is inconsistent with guidance further in the response guidelines that specifies if someone has not tested positive for COVID, but is displaying symptoms as though similar to COVID, we ask that they remain off campus, students or faculty and staff remain off campus for 72 hours until they've been fever-free and without other symptoms for 72 hours. So it's just looking for that, a positive COVID test being fever-free for 72 hours, and having that consistent with a non-positive COVID test also being fever-free without medication for 72 hours. The other recommendation adjustment to the guidelines for positive COVID-19 isolation guidelines would be reflecting, there's a number 4 criteria specific to those with compromised immune systems, kind of some underlying health issues. And the guidance speaks to all 3 conditions need to be met, but there is a 4th that pertains only to those with underlying health conditions. So it's just changing the language to reflect, if applicable, the 4th condition must also be met. The other guidelines, recommended changes to the guidelines would be for positive COVID test action guidelines. So we have the isolation guidelines and the action guidelines. And for the guideline, it's actually it's action guideline number 4, and that should be updated to reflect determine where the student or employee has been and whom they have had close contact with within 48 hours of positive test result, exhibiting symptoms, whichever comes first. This is when we had our first confirmed case. This was the guidance of our Maricopa Public Health Department, and what they ask us to notify them of in the case of confirmed COVID results of someone on campus, so a staff, faculty, student member. They ask us to look from the time that they are either demonstrating symptoms or are tested and receive a positive test result. We have to look 48 hours from that, and anyone that was within 6 feet for 15 minutes or more within a 24-hour period, then they are considered exposed, and we need to report them to the county. And so this is looking to align that same guidance so that when we get notified of a positive result, oftentimes the teacher is the one to learn who is, of the positive test result first, so that they know exactly who they need to be aware of. And again, that would be anyone within that 48-hour window that had been within 6 feet or more for a cumulative 15 minutes or more, with a mask or not. So again, just aligning the guidance so that it reflects what we need to report in those cases. We talked about enrollment, the enrollment update. So nothing more to add there.
All right, let's stick with the updates to the COVID guidelines for just another minute. Board members, any questions on updating these policies to be consistent with the public health guidance? All right. I don't think this is specifically required. This is a procedure that's been implemented, that's already been consistent, but so I guess just to give a uniform front on this, I would move to approve the changes to the positive COVID-19 test isolation guidelines and the positive COVID-19 test action guidelines that Teresa just described to us.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Tanner. Did you catch all that, April? Sorry, I sprung the motion on you.
I have moved to approve the changes to the positive COVID-19 isolation guidelines and the positive test action guidelines that Teresa just described to us.
Yeah. Yep.
Sometimes the words mean nothing as I'm writing them, and then when I read it aloud, it's a surprise.
All right. Any other discussion? Oh, all right. All those in favor? Unanimous. The motion carries. All right. Any other questions for Teresa, guys? All right. Well, Teresa, thanks again. I've been really impressed with everything you've been doing and all the problems you've solved already. So thanks very much. Keep it up. We're lucky to have you.
Thank you.
All right. All right. So anything else we want to talk about related to COVID-19? Obviously the case numbers continue to go up. I think at this point, we addressed this just a few days ago. I think it's kind of monitoring what's going on, seeing if there is a reason why we should change, like a material reason we should change anything we've decided before. But I'm glad to hear that all of our mitigation efforts are being followed closely at the school. It's hugely important. I'm glad to hear we have policies that we followed, and despite hugely rising case numbers outside the school, it seems like we are not really having any transmission that's actually occurring on campus, which is excellent news. Anything else on this issue, guys? Nope. All right. Moving right along then. So our executive director search for a permanent executive director, April Nathaniel has been leading that effort on behalf of the board in conjunction with 4 other members of the advisory panel, 2 parents and 2 faculty members. So April or Nathaniel, you want to fill us in on how things are going and where things stand today?
Sure. I've been trying to update the board as we go along just to keep everyone aware of what's happening. But as you said, the advisory panel has been meeting. I cannot for the life of me remember what I said in the last meeting. So if I repeat something, I apologize. But right now we have our top 10 applicants. We will be interviewing them all next Friday, the 20th. We have our guidelines in place with our interview questions and a scoring form. And everyone has a job to do. It's been a very collaborative effort. We've gotten good feedback too from the people that we're interviewing. It seems like a good group, and we feel confident that we're going to find a good person to fill this role and help us succeed as a school. Have anything to add, Nathaniel?
No, it's a good list. So we'll meet them all and then we'll make our presentation to the board.
Very good. And I'll just note that after looking at the list, I was pleased to see the number of people with Waldorf experience in their backgrounds. I know we've heard a number of times from the community that's something that they'd like to see in a permanent executive director. But it seems like we're going to have a number of different options on that front, which is great news. All right. All right, which brings us to board procedures. So we have 2 different sets of minutes that we need to approve. There are the minutes from our November 4th meeting and the minutes from our emergency November 12th meeting. I believe I got those dates right. Is that right, April? November 4th and November 12th?
Yes, that's accurate.
Okay. All right, so I will move to approve the minutes of our November 4th regular board meeting and our November 12th emergency board meeting.
I second the motion.
Thank you, Nathaniel. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor? Very good. Motion carries. All right. All right, so this brings us to a slightly thornier issue. So I had a very good meeting with members of the charter board about what's going on at the school, what we need to do to get caught up on some compliance issues that have just gotten out of alignment. It seems nobody was really updating the charter board as members of our board changed for the last couple of years, really. So it's become significantly out of alignment in terms of what their records show and who's actually on there. And so one of the things that they need is a comprehensive record of, when people left that are in their records, and then when new people joined and when they were elected to positions. So in lieu of, trying to send them minutes from, 12 different meetings or 14 different meetings where all this stuff happened, I'm just going to recite some of this stuff. In April, I'm going to send you these dates so you'll have them to enter. But I think it will be much easier if I just say them tonight as part of the record, and then we can send them on to the charter board. All right, so our record should reflect that Julie Curtin resigned on November 20th of 2019, that Jimmy Wabe resigned on May 15th of 2019, that Heather Huntelman resigned on November 20th of 2019, that Drusilla Smith Crane resigned on June 5th of 2019, that Clayton Hopkins resigned by email on March 9th of 2020, that Jessica Jarrett resigned by email on March 7th of 2020, that Amy Set Sophia resigned on May 15th of 2019, that Sandra Sabatini Lovelady resigned on September 18th of 2019, that Julie Haynes resigned on by email on May 6th of 2020, that Matthew Walker resigned by email on October 7th of 2020, and that John Elling resigned effective tonight, November 18th of 2020. Which leaves us with our current roster. So the record reflects that John Tanner was elected to the board on November 20th of 2018, that Gregory Schneider was elected to the board on November 20th of 2018, and that April Sauer was elected to the board on November 20th of 2019, and the results of that election were accepted by a board vote on November 4th of 2020. And that Nathaniel Allen was elected to the board on May 20th of 2020. And I noticed in the meeting minutes of that meeting that we had the same issue with April, where there's a record of the vote for Nathaniel, but not a record of accepting the vote, and there wasn't a motion to take the vote. All right, so a couple other points. April Sauer was elected as the secretary on October 21st of 2020. I was elected as the president on October 21st of 2020. And I was elected to be the charter representative on April 15th of 2020. All right, that was a lengthy list, but it's important for the charter board to have that information. And they need to see a motion accepting all of that. So I would move that the board accepts the outcomes of all prior elections and all prior resignations as I've just recited them.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Tanner. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor? All right, motion carries. All right, so the other issue is that we need a second charter representative to have access to the charter board and to make those kinds of, potentially have the ability to make changes to who represents the board and whatnot. I've asked April if she'd be willing to do that, and she said that she would, although I intend to continue taking the laboring oar as far as facing with the charter board and getting us fully into regulatory compliance with them. So I move to elect April Sauer as second charter representative for the Arizona State Board of Charter Schools for Valley of the Sun Waldorf Education Association.
I second that motion.
Any other discussion?
I missed it. I was out. It kicked me out and I'm back in. So I missed the entire motion. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
I have the last motion I have is accepting the outcomes of the prior elections.
Okay. All right. So I move to elect you as the second charter representative for Valley of the Sun Waldorf Education Association with the Arizona State Board of Charter Schools. And was it Nathaniel who seconded? And Nathaniel seconded the motion. All right. Any other discussion? All right. All those in favor? Thank you. The motion carries unanimously. The last thing with respect to the charter board is because of the financial irregularities that occurred over the last couple of years, we are in probation status with the charter board. So we have to send them quarterly financial reports. And we also had to come up with a financial action plan. I circulated that plan to you all earlier today. So all we have to do now is approve it. So I will move to approve the financial action plan dated November 16th, 2020.
I second it with enthusiasm.
Thank you, sir. All right. Any other discussion? All those in favor? It's unanimous. The motion carries. All right. So that takes us through the end of the current needs for the charter board and regulatory compliance. I imagine there might be more. Which brings us to the last couple of items on our agenda for the night. Any other final interview questions we have for our board applicants? I see we have Dan Franks and Danielle Martinez with us this evening. So Dan and Danielle, if you want to go ahead and turn your cameras on. thanks for being here tonight. Really appreciate it. So, board members, any additional questions for Danielle or Dan?
I have a question. I would like you to spend a minute marketing yourself. Tell us something awesome you have done for our school as a volunteer and toot your horn a little bit.
You go first, Dan.
Okay. It's like self-serving. I really enjoy gardening, so I've spent a decent amount of time in the garden. I helped host a pruning workshop on the trees and with drummer Bobby, and helped coordinate that with the arborist from the city of Phoenix. And that was a really, really fun shop that I learned a lot in, and was able to help other members of the community learn a lot about how to take care of fruit trees. So that was pretty cool. Mostly it's been around the garden up till then, helping create a lot of stuff for the classes as far as from an arts and crafts perspective, and the winter fair, stuff like that as well. We've done several times, and I really enjoy that also. Oh, and any computer advice I can give to the teachers, I try constantly, and not be annoying or anything, but try and give them actually practical and useful information when they seem to be struggling. So.
All right, I think you're up, Danielle.
Okay. I did think long and hard about this one, and my most memorable and the most enriching experience for me was running Winter Fair. I think it was my second year at the school, and we were told there's a 3-ring binder that tells you everything you need to know. So we thought, yes, we'd go for it. So it was me and a team of all new parents, and it was really the best time I've had. We created a committee, we had subcommittees, and of course it took many, many hands, but it was fabulous to showcase our talents, to be able to create new ideas, and to be able to incorporate what we had done in the past or what the school had done in the past, and to bring the why really into the initiative of why we were doing it and what we could really bring forth. And so a very special thank you, if they are watching, to Sammy Rank, Bobby Hirschfield, Bonnie Chowak, I'm sorry for the pronunciation, of Paris Hilton, Tammy and Hendricks. It was fabulous to see everyone just rose up to the occasion. We started the trend for deepening pockets, doing more advertising, go outside of the community, and increasing the profits.
Nice.
Excellent. So Daniel, Mr. Tanner.
No questions.
All right. So I have one, and it's a pressing question because we had our treasurer resign recently. So I was wondering if either of you have, Danielle, I know you work for a bank, so I'm especially curious about your experience, but the extent that either of you have experience in financial matters, managing budgets, reading profit and loss statements, that sort of thing, dealing with lenders, or working for lenders. Yeah. Any experience you have on that front, I'd like to hear about.
I'll take this one, Dan. And you're absolutely right. That is one of my areas of expertise. There is, of course, a gray line on how much I can advise, but I can certainly answer a lot of the how-tos. And I have a center of influence team of CPAs that I work closely with, especially with clients, as we don't make any tax representation whatsoever. But that's really nice to partner with and be able to get the free advice, if you will, especially for the P&Ls, the profit losses, reading the spreadsheets, very well versed in that, the requirements and what the bank looks for. And, we have a lot of transparency on if you're not geared in the right position of what we like to see, what things you can work on. So it's a nice clear cut when it comes to the finance part of it. I'm very familiar with changing signers and when those things need to be updated. There's sort of corporation commission, Secretary of State, balancing, of course, credits and debits, very easy to track dollars. Did I answer everything?
Yeah, I think so.
My business experience is more limited. I haven't ran a business in like 15 years, but I have started a couple, and I can read most of the statements and am versed in a lot of the financial terminology. I'm not nearly as useful as Danielle is in that regard, but I am able to comprehend and understand what that's going on. So.
You just have to be willing. Everything else comes naturally. Resources.
Yeah, well, and on that point, it's unusual to ask a new board member to take on an officer position, but we just don't have that many people right now. And Nathaniel, who I think is probably equally or similarly well qualified to look at this stuff, is neck deep in trying to find us an executive director along with April. And Mr. Tanner's trying to keep the school open and doing the personal protective stuff with all the kids and teaching and, teaching hybrid classes, making all new curriculum. And I'm all over the place in terms of regulatory compliance and finishing up some wonder stuff. And so we could really use some help. So let me ask you this then more pointedly. Are either of you willing and have the time for serving as the treasurer? Assuming you would be elected.
There's probably a really gray area that I couldn't. I can definitely seek approval for that, but it's strongly discouraged. However, I can always do reports and review items, but to be an actual treasurer, it's frowned upon.
I see. Okay.
I mean, how much more of a time commitment would that be? I don't know how much time people have spent on it traditionally. I'm not opposed to looking into it and accepting that role, as I'm also a huge fan of automation. I'm just not sure how much I could automate, so. Yeah,
this might be a tough one just to automate. I think the bulk of the work comes in working with administration and Priscilla to create a new budget for the school year. And then a lot of it is kind of more ministerial type of stuff throughout the school year. Priscilla, I just noticed you're still on. Do you want to comment on the work you've done with treasurers in the past? I'm not sure where that music is coming from.
It might be my daughter. Give me one moment. It's piano.
Okay.
I'm not sure if you can see me or not, but as far as the financials, I just go through and I oversee the accounting. I look at the invoices, make sure that everything's posted to the accounts based on what's recommended to be consistent, make sure the expenses are consistent. We have a lot of work that we do for the budgeting, making sure that the budget is consistent and looking at the expenses and where we need to increase the budget or lower the budget. Reviewing the expenses, make sure that we're looking for fraud, looking for things that are consistent. We do look at the teacher salaries, help with the teacher salaries and the increases from the year to year. We have input on that. We also classify everything for the different grants that the school receives. This year in particular, because of COVID, we are helping the school with applying for the CARES grants and making sure that we are receiving that money and accounting for it and doing the state reporting as required. So yeah, we are working, we work 1 day a week on Desert Marigold, rather it's all in 1 day or half day here, half day there. 2 days on site, 2 days remotely, doing payroll. We do all the payroll processing for Desert Marigold. Keep track of we do the teachers' calendars for them so that they know, when they're receiving their money. We watch the stipends. We take care of the 301 money. So yeah, anything finance related, Aspire is doing. Reviewing it. Jessica is also a hired on bookkeeper as well, and she's posting in the invoices through bill.com. And because she's more hands-on and knows the school and the teachers and the community, she looks at some of the expenses coming in and she helps us classify them into the different programs.
So, Dan, as you can see, Priscilla and her team are doing a huge amount of the legwork. And so really we need somebody with the board's perspective to be able to weigh in on some of these issues, coordinate with admin, on budgetary issues and those things as we develop a new budget. So, and then as things come up with blunders, usually we would look to the treasurer to be the one who's taking the lead on that kind of stuff. At least as far as coordinating and making sure we're satisfying all of our covenants and our loans, like making sure financial statements are getting sent to our lenders on a timely basis. And that sort of thing. So,
yeah, that all loosely tracks with kind of my day-to-day activities at my current job with coordinating and some of the budgeting and making sure contractors are paid and all sorts of other things like that. So I probably would have pretty good overlap, and I would definitely be willing to learn. And if Danielle could be advising me and other people who've done the job, that'd be great.
Got it. All right. Well, that's good news for Nathaniel. All right, guys, any other questions? All right, in the past, we've done secret ballots and that sort of thing. I think we can forego that formality this time. And now that I know the correct procedure that the charter board would like to see in a minute, we can do this one at a time. So I move to elect Danielle Martinez to the board of directors.
I second that motion.
Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor? All right, congratulations, Danielle. Welcome to the board.
Thank you.
All right. Just going to wait a second to make sure April's caught up. All right, so I move to elect Dan Franks to the board of directors.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor? All right, motion passes. Congratulations, Dan. Welcome to the board.
Thank you.
All right, you will be assigned a mentor, and we'll coordinate all of this offline. And then there's a small set of paperwork that you need to fill out that we have to submit to the charter board that basically says you agree to the rules. And there's a statement of any other charter schools that are affiliated with that sort of stuff. So we'll coordinate all of that offline and get you all set up. All right, so you have some of the paperwork already. Very good, Danielle. Thank you. All right, which brings us to our last item for the evening, election of board officers. So due to recent events, we recently just elected April and myself. as the president and secretary. Typically, every November we would re-vote on these things. I propose that we skip re-voting on those two positions since we just filled them. Unless anyone disagrees with that. Nope. Okay, which leaves us with filling the treasurer position. So I touched base with Nathaniel offline and just asked a few questions with Dan and Danielle. And, Mr. Tanner, before I go too far, I just want to make sure you don't have any interest in being the treasurer.
No, I think it would be a conflict of interest, and I already have a substantial number of obligations to the school. But thank you, sir.
Okay, and that's what I suspected. All right. Which leaves Dan and Danielle, and Danielle told us that's a conflict for her, so which leaves Dan. So I will move to elect Dan Franks as the treasurer of the board of directors.
Speech.
And I guess I should say before we vote on this one, typically newly elected board members do not vote on the evening in which they are elected. So you can nod your head vigorously, but not raise your hand on this one. All right. Any second for that motion, guys?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Nathaniel. Right.
Thank you. Thank you, Dan.
Any other discussion? All right. All those in favor? All right. Unanimous among the members of the board eligible for voting. The motion carries. Congratulations, Dan.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else, guys, related to anything we've covered this evening? I want to thank everyone for being efficient tonight. Covered a lot of ground in a short amount of time.
Usually we have the board calendar on here and I don't see it on the agenda. So we don't need to talk about it, but I will send everyone the link because there have been just a few updates on it and I need to do next year's as well. So just keep your eye out for that.
Very good. Priscilla, is the enrollment stability grant, should we be finding out about that tomorrow?
Those amounts will be published November 25th.
25th, okay.
So yeah, it's on the 25th. It's all over our calendars. We'll log on. We will have to log on and pull the amounts, and then there'll be forms that we'll have to download for signature and send back. So we'll get with you once they publicize the amounts for each school.
Perfect. Thanks very much.
Of course.
All right. Hearing nothing else, I will move to adjourn.
I will second that motion.
Thank you, Nathaniel. Any other discussion? All right. All those in favor? All right. The motion carries. I'll read the closing verse and we'll be done. The most important task for humankind today and in the future is that we should learn to live together and understand one another. If this human fellowship is not achieved, all talk of development is empty. That again is from Rudolf Steiner. All right. Thanks, everybody. Dan, Danielle, we'll touch base offline. And we'll see you on December 2nd. Take care.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you.